The silence of our suburban home was a comfortable blanket I used to cherish. Now, it just feels loud. It was a Tuesday, mundane, forgettable. Sarah was in the shower, the sound of water a rhythmic beat against the porcelain. My own laptop was dead, and I just needed to quickly check the closing numbers for our quarterly report. Our company, the one my best friend Alex and I built from a garage startup into a multi-million-dollar software firm, was on the verge of its biggest breakthrough. "Hey babe, using your MacBook for a sec?" I called out. A muffled, "Okay," was the reply. I flipped open the sleek silver lid. The screen glowed to life, showing the vacation photo of us in Italy we'd set as the wallpaper. We looked so happy. I clicked on the browser, but my eyes caught something else. The Messages app was open in the dock, a little red circle with a 1 pulsating over it. It was from Alex, my best friend, my business partner, my brother in all but blood. The message preview was innocuous enough. "Everything is set for Friday." Curiosity, a venomous little snake, uncoiled in my gut. Why was Alex texting Sarah about Friday? We had a board meeting, but she wasn't involved in the day-to-day. I clicked. The message history loaded, and the floor dropped out from beneath me. My world didn't just crack, it atomized. Scrolling up was like watching a car crash in slow motion. It started with flirty jokes, then escalated. Secret lunches, late-night calls I'd mistaken for work emergencies. Photos I was never meant to see, of them in hotel rooms, at parks I thought were her solo jogging spots. The girls' weekend in Napa was a romantic getaway for two. My stomach churned. Every memory of the past 8 months was instantly corrupted, rewritten with a nauseating new narrative of deceit. They called me the Golden Goose. They laughed about how oblivious I was, how hard I worked while they played. Each word was a physical blow. I felt the air leave my lungs, my hands shaking so violently I could barely hold the mouse. This was more than a sordid affair. This was a conspiracy, painted with the colors of my life. But then it got worse, so much worse. The venom turned to ice in my veins as I scrolled further back, into the business discussions. Alex was feeding her confidential data. They weren't just cheating on me, they were planning to gut our company. They had meticulously planned to exploit a loophole in our partnership agreement, timed perfectly with our upcoming Series B funding. Their plan was to dissolve the current entity, leaving me with the debts and legal fallout, while they would immediately start a new company, with our proprietary code, our key developers they'd already poached, and our entire client list. Friday wasn't just a board meeting, it was my execution day. "He'll never see it coming," Alex had written. "He trusts us too much." "That's his weakness," Sarah had replied with a laughing emoji. "My poor trusting husband. Don't worry, I'll act devastated for a few weeks. It'll be very convincing." I closed the laptop, the click echoing in the cavernous silence of the house. The sound of the shower stopped. I walked into our bedroom, my movements stiff, robotic. Sarah emerged, wrapped in a towel, humming. She smiled when she saw me. It was the same smile from our wedding day, the same one from the Italy photo. It was a complete lie. "Hey you," she said, her voice light and airy. "Did you find what you needed?" I looked at her, this stranger, who wore my wife's face. The anger was a roaring inferno inside me, but on the outside, I was eerily calm. An idea, cold and sharp as a shard of glass, formed in my mind. They thought my trust was my weakness. I would make it their downfall. For the next 2 days, I gave the performance of a lifetime. I was the loving, oblivious husband. I kissed her goodbye in the morning. I brought home her favorite takeout. I listened to her complain about a fictional argument with a friend, all while knowing she had spent her afternoon with Alex. I even feigned excitement about a surprise she and Alex were planning for me on Friday. "You guys are the best," I'd said, my voice dripping with manufactured sincerity that they greedily drank up. Behind the scenes, I was a man possessed. I spent hours with my lawyer, a shark my father had always kept on retainer for rainy days. This wasn't a rainy day, it was a Category 5 hurricane. We gathered evidence. I forwarded the entire message history to a secure email. I documented the data breaches, the poached employees, the shell corporation they had already set up. My trust had been my weakness, but my meticulous nature was my strength. Friday arrived, the big day. I walked into the boardroom at 10 a.m. sharp. Alex was there, grinning, slapping me on the back. "Ready for the big pitch, buddy?" he asked, his eyes gleaming with a predatory light. Sarah was waiting in the lobby, ready to play the part of the supportive wife who would console me after my world imploded. Our investors and board members filed in. I started the presentation, my voice steady. I went through the financials, the projections, the success of our platform. Then I paused. "But before we discuss the future of this company," I said, my eyes locking onto Alex's, "we need to address a serious issue of internal security and fiduciary betrayal." I clicked to the next slide. It wasn't a graph. It was a screenshot of his messages with Sarah. "Can't wait for our new life to start." A collective gasp filled the room. Alex's face went from tan to a pasty, sickly white. I clicked again. A detailed flowchart of their plan to defraud the company. Click. Bank records for their secret shell corporation. Click. Affidavits from the employees they had tried to poach, who, it turned out, had more loyalty to the company we built than to the man trying to destroy it. "As of this morning," I said, my voice ringing with cold authority, "Alex is no longer a partner in this firm. He is, however, the subject of a criminal investigation for corporate espionage and fraud. Security will now escort him from the building." 2 uniformed officers who had been waiting in the hall entered the room. They didn't even look at me. They walked straight to Alex, who was frozen in his chair, sputtering, unable to form a coherent sentence. As they pulled him to his feet, his eyes met mine. They were filled with pure, unadulterated hatred. I felt nothing. I walked out to the lobby. Sarah jumped up, her face arranged in a mask of concern. "What happened? Is everything okay?" I didn't say a word. I simply handed her a thick manila envelope. She opened it. Inside were the divorce papers, already filed, along with a restraining order. And on top, a single glossy printout of her vacation photo from Italy. I had scribbled a note on it. Was any of it real? Her carefully constructed facade shattered. The color drained from her face as she looked from the papers to me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. The supportive wife vanished, replaced by a cornered animal. I turned and walked away without looking back. I didn't need to hear her excuses or her fake tears. I had already read the truth. The year that followed was the hardest of my life. But it was also the most cleansing. I rebuilt. I rebranded. The company, my company, soared to new heights, built on a foundation of honesty and the loyalty of those who stuck by me. Alex and Sarah were buried in legal battles, their ill-gotten gains drained by lawyers, their reputations destroyed. I heard they broke up, the pressure and recrimination too much for a relationship built on lies. Sometimes, late at night in my quiet new apartment overlooking the city, I think about that Tuesday. I think about the sickening glow of the laptop screen. It was the moment my life burned to the ground. But from those ashes, I learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes, the worst betrayals don't just break you, they forge you into something stronger.